For Vegeta, that sentence was never just about pride. It was a shield, a desperate assertion from someone who had everything taken from him before he ever had a chance to prove himself. He watched his home planet destroyed, served a tyrant who murdered his people, spent years living in the shadow of a man he considered beneath him. And every loss, every humiliation, fed one thing: his inferiority. Vegeta's arc is often seen as one of rivalry, power, or redemption. But underneath it all is the psychology of a man who couldn't stand the idea that he wasn't enough, and who eventually learned that being enough didn't mean being the strongest. This is the story of Vegeta's inferiority complex, how it shaped him, and what it means to truly redeem yourself, not in someone else's eyes, but in your own. From the beginning, Vegeta was conditioned to believe he was elite. As the son of King Vegeta, he was royalty, the strongest of the Saiyans, a warrior race that prized dominance and pride above all else. But that belief system was shattered early. Frieza didn't just conquer the Saiyans, he humiliated them. He made their king bow. And when planet Vegeta was destroyed, Vegeta was spared, not because of his strength, but because he was useful. A tool, a pawn, a child weaponized by fear and control. For a young prince raised to feel superior, this was unbearable. But instead of collapsing under that shame, Vegeta turned it inward, and then outwards. He doubled down on the idea of his greatness, not as a truth, but as a defense mechanism, a way to survive a world where everything he was told he'd be had already been taken from him. Alfred Adler, the father of individual psychology, called this an inferiority complex, the subconscious belief that one is inadequate, often masked by aggressive compensation. In Adler's view, we all experience feelings of inferiority as children. But when those feelings become overwhelming or are never resolved, they can drive us to extreme behaviors, superiority, illusions, perfectionism, even cruelty, all in an attempt to cover the wound. Vegeta isn't arrogant because he feels strong. He's arrogant because he feels weak, and because he was never allowed to admit that weakness. When he first arrives on Earth, his cruelty isn't random. It's a test, a declaration, a way to prove to himself in the universe that he is who he was promised to be, that he's better than Nappa, better than Kakarot, Kai, better than anything Frieza made him feel like. But he isn't, not yet. He bleeds, he loses. For the first time in his life, Vegeta begins to realize that the crown he's clung to so tightly might be nothing more than a symbol for the self he wishes he could be. That is the moment the complex begins to crack, and the real transformation begins. Enter Goku, or rather, Kakarot. Vegeta doesn't just fight Goku, he orbits him. At first, the rivalry seems like a simple power contest, but it quickly becomes deeper, more psychological. Vegeta isn't trying to defeat Goku, he's trying to defeat the part of himself that needs to. In Nietzsche's philosophy, the will to power isn't just about domination. It's the driving force behind all human striving, the impulse to assert control over our lives, to turn suffering into meaning. For Nietzsche, power isn't about controlling others, it's about overcoming ourselves. But Vegeta warps that idea. For him, power is the only way to reclaim his dignity, to prove that he wasn't a pawn, he isn't second best, that everything he lost, his planet, his pride, his purpose, can be earned back if he just becomes strong enough. And then, Goku becomes a Super Saiyan first. That moment breaks something in him. Vegeta had been chasing that transformation for years. He saw it as destiny, the rightful next step in his arc as a warrior prince. And yet, it's Kakarot, the soft-hearted, low-class clown who gets there first. The scene where Vegeta recounts his rage, screaming at the heavens, is one of the most revealing moments in Dragon Ball. I pushed myself to the edge of my limits, and beyond. But you just breezed right through it, didn't you? This isn't about power anymore. It's about meaning. Vegeta's entire identity collapses in that moment. Because if someone like Goku can succeed without hatred, without ego, then what has Vegeta been fighting for? This is the first crack in the Nietzschean illusion that raw power alone can resolve existential suffering. Vegeta is strong, but he's not fulfilled. For the first time, he realizes that strength might not be the answer to his emptiness. The real question begins to gnaw at him. Why can Goku have both strength and softness? Why does his kindness make him stronger, while my pride only makes me alone? It's a question he doesn't know how to face. And instead of turning inward, he doubles down. He trains obsessively, isolates himself, becomes colder. But no matter what he does, Goku keeps rising, and he keeps falling short. That's when the complex metastasizes. It's no longer driven by growth. He's driven by humiliation. Can't. When someone offers him a path to reclaim his power, no matter the cost, he takes it. Not because he believes in evil, but because he's drowning in shame. Power is addictive, especially when it wants to define your entire worth. By the time we reach the Majin Buu saga, Vegeta has already lived a quiet domestic life for years. He has a wife, a son, a home. He trains, yes, but he's no longer ruled by conquest. He's changed, grown, softened, and he hates it, because softness still feels like defeat. When Babidi arrives, Vegeta doesn't fall under mind control. He chooses it. He allows himself to be corrupted, not to save Earth, not out of duty, but because deep down he's afraid. Afraid he's losing the edge that made him who he was. Afraid that fatherhood and peace are erasing his identity. Afraid that the real Vegeta, the proud Saiyan prince, is dying. This is classic psychological regression. When progress feels foreign or fragile, the psyche retreats into the known. Even if the known is toxic, Vegeta isn't becoming something new, okay? He's re-becoming something old, something broken, okay? Because at least that pain is familiar. And so he picks a fight with Goku, not as a comrade, but as a rival. It's one of the most emotionally raw moments in the series. Not because of the spectacle, but because of the truth. Vegeta finally admits, "I had to know if I was better than you." That line isn't about power, it's about identity. For years, Goku has symbolized everything Vegeta couldn't be. Effortless, loved, free. Beating Goku wasn't just about pride. It was about proving he mattered, okay? That he still had meaning. But after the fight, he still feels hollow, okay? And that emptiness cracks through the facade, okay? From a Jungian lens, this is the failure of shadow integration. Vegeta tried to reclaim the dark, aggressive self he once was, hoping it would complete him, okay? But instead, it just made him more fragmented, more alone. He realizes the old self can't save him. For the first time, he starts to question what can. Babidi loses control. Majin Buu awakens, and Vegeta makes a choice. In one of the most iconic scenes in Dragon Ball Z, he knocks Trunks out, embraces him, and tells him, "Take care of your mother." It's the first time we ever see Vegeta hold his son. The first time he chooses connection over pride. And then he walks to his death, not to win, not for glory, but to protect. This is the moment Vegeta's entire arc pivots, from power to meaning. He doesn't sacrifice himself as a warrior, he sacrifices himself as a father. "You've made me proud, Trunks." This is the real transformation, not Super Saiyan, not Majin power, but the evolution of purpose. For the first time, Vegeta isn't driven by inferiority, rivalry, or survival. He's driven by love. It's here that Viktor Frankl's philosophy becomes crucial. In Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl writes, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." Vegeta's why is no longer himself. It's no longer pride or vengeance. It's his family, okay? And through that shift, he becomes more than a fighter. He becomes human. This is how redemption begins, not with perfection, but with surrender, okay? He lets go of the image he clung to his entire life. The proud, undefeated Saiyan and chooses something softer, something harder. Okay? He chooses to die, not as a prince, but as a father. And in doing so, he reclaims something far more powerful than pride. Meaning, redemption isn't a clean arc, it's a spiral. Okay? And Vegeta's journey doesn't end with sacrifice. In Dragon Ball Super, he's still proud, still stubborn, still Vegeta, but something fundamental has shifted. He no longer fights for himself. He fights for his family, his people, and even his rivals. He trains not to surpass Goku, but to protect. He battles, not for pride, but to save universes. He holds his daughter, Bula, gently. He apologizes to Kaba. He even acknowledges Goku's strength with respect, not bitterness. He's still flawed. He still falters. Okay. But his direction has changed. Okay. This is the difference between Nietzsche and Viktor Frankl. Nietzsche's will to power fueled Vegeta's early years, but it left him empty. It was Frankl's will to meaning, to turn toward purpose, love, and responsibility that finally gave him peace. Vegeta never becomes perfect. That's not the point. But he becomes whole. Goku might always be stronger. But Vegeta is wiser. Because he knows now, real strength isn't found in domination. It's found in choosing love over fear. In protecting, not proving. In the end, Vegeta didn't just become powerful. He became someone worth being. And maybe that's the real victory. What if your obsession with being the best is really just a fear of not being enough? You don't need to dominate to deserve love. You don't have to win to be worthy. Okay? And you don't need to perfect yourself to be seen. Vegeta didn't transform because he was defeated. He transformed because he chose to let go of ego, of pride, of the belief that strength means isolation. His redemption wasn't in power. It was in vulnerability. And maybe yours will be too. Threads of Self is about seeing the human beneath the hero, the fears behind the strength, the hope inside the struggle. So tell us, what was your favorite Vegeta moment? The one that showed you who he really was? And who should we unravel next? Which character do you see yourself in? Your story matters, and you're never alone in it.